Dear students, welcome to the course of Introduction to Economics. I am your course instructor Shehzad Khan Durrani, lecturer at the Institute of Business Studies, Cust Hangu campus. Today our topic is Law of Demand. Our outline it includes law of demand. In order to understand the basic concept of the law of demand, first we will try to define demand. Then we will talk about the basic concept of the law of demand. Then we will try to learn demand schedule and demand curve. Then we will try to know about why the demand curve is downward sloping, and at the end we will talk about the shifters of the demand curve. So let's start from the basic definition and the concept of the law of demand. So definition of demand. Demand, by definition, it is an economic principle that refers to the amount of goods or services or products that consumer wish to purchase at any given price level. So it means that demand is backed by your purchasing power. You have a desire, you have a wish, you want to buy a certain product, but that is actually backed by your purchasing power. Law of demand. Law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded, right? It means that there is an opposite relationship between price and quantity demanded. There is an inverse relationship. There is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded, which means that if there is an increase in the price, then the demand for that product will decrease, and if there is a decrease in price, then the demand for that product will increase. So when price of a commodity rises, the quantity demanded for that commodity falls, and when a price of a commodity falls, the quantity demanded for that commodity rises. The next one is the demand schedule and the demand curve. Demand schedule. Demand schedule is a table that shows, or the table showing the relationship between price and quantity demand of a commodity, right? So let's see, this is a table. The one column of the table, it shows the prices of a Coke represented by P. The second column, it shows the quantity demanded of Coke, which is represented by Q. As we can see in the table, there is a decrease in price and there is an increase in demand, right? We can see it through numbers. So the price of Coke is 40, so the quantity demanded is 2. It means that if the price is 40, the person is able to buy 2 Cokes. So when the price is reduced from 40 to 30, then the person is able to buy 4, and the list goes on. So it means that there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. The next one is the demand curve. Demand curve is actually a graphical representation of the demand schedule, right? When we plot that table through a graph, when we see that table through a graph, that's actually called the demand curve, and it shows how much of a good or services consumers want to buy at any given price. So let's see, this is the graph of that table that we just saw. The vertical axis, it shows the price of the Coke, and the y-axis, it shows the quantity demanded of Coke, right? So we can see an expansion in the demand here in the graph. We can see that there is a increase in demand because of reduction in the price. So we can see an expansion, and that green line, it's sloping downward, right? So it means that there is a expansion in demand, so the line is sloping downward, right? And it shows that there is a inverse relationship or opposite or negative relationship. The next one, or the next topic, is why the demand curve is downward sloping. So why, right? So there are three reasons that why the demand curve is downward sloping. The first reason is the substitution effect. Change in price motivate consumer to buy relatively cheaper substitute goods. It means that if you have a substitute good available, right? So it means that if there is an increase in price, it will increase the demand of the substitute good, right? If there is an increase in the price of Coke, so there will be a demand increases for the Pepsi, for example, right? So it's the substitute good, right? If there is an increase, for example, in the prices of the Samsung phones, right, then the demand for the iPhone will increase if the prices remains the same. So it caused the demand curve to slope downward because of the substitution effect. There is an expansion in the demand in the substitute product. Then we have the income effect. It means changes in price affect the purchasing power of consumers' income, right? It means that if you have earning or income, if you are going to a market to buy certain products, right? If there is for example, a sale on certain products, so you can buy more, right? Just because there is a sale with the same amount of money. Next time when you are going to a market and there is no sale, so you cannot buy, right? Or if there is an increase in income, then you can buy more products, right? So it means change in price affect the purchasing power of the consumer income, right? If the prices are getting up, you can buy less with the same amount of income. So it's called the income effect. The next we have the law of diminishing marginal utility, and this law states that as you continue to consume a given product, you will eventually get less additional utility from each unit you consume. What does it mean? It means that if you are using a certain product, so if you continue to consume that product, so the one additional unit that you are consuming, its satisfaction will not be the same as the first, second, third, fourth, fifth one, right? So diminishing means decreasing, marginal means additional, utility means satisfaction. Let's see, if you are drinking milk, so if you are taking the first sip, it will be different than the second, third, fourth, or fifth sip of a milk, and this is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. Then shifters of the demand curve. Shifters of the demand curve, any change in determinants of demand cause shift in demand curve, right? So it's different, it's these determinants are other than the price, right? If there is a change in the price, that's actually called change in quantity demanded, right? Or if there is a change in the other determinants, that's actually called change in demand, right? And the graphical representations of the determinants of the demand, it can cause the demand curve to shift to the right or shift to the left, left. If there is an increase, it will shift to the right. If there is a decrease in demand, it will shift to the left. So some of the determinants of the demand that cause shift in the demand curve are taste and preferences, right? If your taste and preferences are changing about a certain product, right, so it can cause the demand curve to shift to the right or shift to the left, right? Let's say if the doctor says that if you consume one apple every morning, it can help you to improve your memory, right? So just because of the doctor says, so the people preferences will change, right? So it will help uh, increase in demand, right, just because of the preferences. Or let's say another example, if the doctor says that the Coke or Pepsi damage your stomach, so the preferences will change and it will decrease the demand, and the demand curve will shift to the left. Then we have the number of consumers. So if there are like a huge number of consumers consuming a certain product, so there will be a shift in the demand, and the demand curve will shift to the right because there is an increase in demand. And if the less number of people using a certain product, then there will be a decrease in demand, and the demand curve will shift to the left. I will give you an example. At one time, the consumption of the Telenor SIM decreased in Pakistan, so it causes the demand curve to shift to the left just because of the number of consumers, right, that were decreased. Then we have the income effect. Income effect, it comes on two goods. One is called the normal goods, one is called the one is called the normal good and the other is called the inferior goods, right? So for the normal goods, the income has a direct relationship with the normal goods, right? So if there is an increase in income, there is the demand for the normal goods will increase too, right? How? Let's say if your income is increasing, so the demand for the flour, for the wheat, for the milk will increase too, and these are called the normal goods. The other is called the inferior goods, right? Then there is an inverse relationship between the inferior goods and the income. So if there is an increase in the income, people are normally switching towards a good brain. So if there is a decrease in income, people want to buy cheaper products, right, according to their income, right? So income also causes the demand curve to shift to the right or shift to the left. Then we have the expectations, right? If the people are expecting an increase in the coming months or in the coming year uh, of a certain product, right, then the demand for that product will jump, right? And people, if the people are expecting that the price will decrease in the future, then the demand curve is shifting to the left, which means that there is a decrease in demand. The price of the related goods, so let's talk about it because it's important to understand this one, the price of the related goods. So the price of the related goods, there are two kinds of goods. One is called the complementary goods. What is complementary goods? A complementary good is a good whose appeal increases with the popularity of its complement. Or, in simple words, goods that are used together with another. The example of that are ball and bat, right? So these are called the compulsory goods for each other, right? If there is an increase in the price of balls, right, then the bat prices will jump too, right? If there is a, for example, the prices of the car, if the prices of the petrol is decreasing, then the demand for the car will increase, right? So these are called the complementary goods. Ink and pen, right? So if the prices of the ink is decreasing, then people will buy more pen, then the demand for the pen will jump. So they are called the complementary goods, and it causes the demand curve to shift to the right. When two goods are complementary, the price of one and demand for another moves in opposite direction, right? So the price, if the price of one is increasing, right, the demand for another will decrease. Then we have the change in price of related goods. Another one, we have the substitute goods, and they are goods that can be used in place of another good, right? For example, coffee and tea, they can be used in place of each other. Beef and chicken, that can be used in place of each other. So if there is an increase in the price of the beef, people will switch towards the chicken. So Pepsi and Coke can be the example as well. And look at the graph, the demand curve, it will shift to the right. It means when two goods are substitutes, the price of one and demand for another moves in the same direction. These are the references that I use while making my slides. Thank you.